Recording. Hello. Thank you all for joining us. It's Jen Ray, your founder and president of Restoring Her. I'm so glad to be with you tonight, and I have a fabulous guest, so I'm excited to get started. Before we do anything else, I just would like to take a moment and say hi to Audra Upchurch and, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'd like to know more. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what you love, all of those things before we just jump right in.
Awesome. And thank you, Jen, for this opportunity just to come and hang out with you tonight and answer some questions. You could have reached to anyone and you reached to me, and I don't take it lightly. So thank you so much. So I am Audra Upchurch, and I am your principal partner in Authentic Freedom. And I help career women eliminate limiting beliefs and find their authentic excellence through strategic mentorship.
Awesome.
So to make that sound short and sweet, I hope professional women get control over their personal lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
awesome.
A little bit about my background.
Yeah.
I have kind of a weird accent because I grew up in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I lived in Hampton Roads, Virginia for about the past 18 years. So you kind of have that mix going on.
Uh-huh.
And my life today is really great. I'm so thankful for where I am today. I am happily married. I work for a Fortune 500 company. My husband and I have a business together. And I am also a best-selling author. And pretty excited about where life is. But life didn't start off this way. Growing up in Brooklyn, I was homeless as a teenager. My mother suffered with mental illness. So, yeah, life was a little bit hard.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Wow, that's amazing. It makes me even more excited to really get into some of these questions because I can already tell that there is some great depth there, and I'm excited to really dig in there.
Well, come on and dig on in.
All right. Well, without further ado, I'm going to let you tell that story. So tell us your story of restoration. How have you been restored in life? You kind of started talking about a little bit of your background. Tell us more. Tell us all about your restoration story.
Sure, I definitely will. And I love the term restoration because it's going back to the beginning. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us, we go through some rough times in our lives and we regroup. We don't get restored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for myself, that definitely was the case. When I think about my childhood, I always wanted to be a teacher or a journalist. Kind of would go back and forth between those things. See myself as teaching 4th or 5th grade students, but also writing in the Village Voice. Right. But I grew up so poor. We didn't have much.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in a very poor neighborhood, but we were poor of all the other poor kids. When you're already in a poor neighborhood, you the poorest of the poor. Yeah, that's where we were, down there, right? So one day, going through my struggles and being on my own at 14, and I was actually reading the New York Times.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen the Times, it's a big, huge newspaper that you gotta kind of flip.
Yeah.
So I was flipping through the New York Times, and the first few pages were all accounting jobs. And I saw these salaries that these accountants were making, and I'm like, wow, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so my high school in New York, you don't go to the high school in your neighborhood. You don't have to. You can go to high schools in other boroughs. You don't call them cities, you call them boroughs. So I went to high school in Manhattan, and I changed my direction from nursing, because I don't even know how I wound up there, but to business.
Okay.
And jumped into my bookkeeping classes and had that desire that was spurred from the dollar signs I saw in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And I used that as the fuel. When I went to college, it was automatic, a major in accounting.
Yeah.
I decided to continue my degree and get an MBA, everything focused around business. And while I proceeded to progress professionally and was able to leave all the hunger and homelessness and all of that behind, once I reached a certain point professionally, I realized I was empty.
Yeah.
Right? I had regrouped from my childhood, but I wasn't restored.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went on a journey about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was driving home. It was a beautiful Saturday morning. In fact, I was finishing up, I think, my MBA, and I was mad because I was at school on a Saturday morning, and I was driving home, and just the totality of where my life was at that moment hit me. I had all these materialistic things, but I didn't like who I was on the inside.
Wow. Wow.
And, I had a talk with God that day. And I said, you know what, from this day forward, I'm going to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
And, financially, I'm still stuck to my job, which I love. I do. I'm thankful for the job. But I've also now reached out and learned that those initial desires that I had for helping others and writing still had to be birthed.
Yeah.
And I've been in the process of doing that ever since. And it's just been so amazing, the healing that's taken place through my restoration.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. That's amazing. I love how you are, able to say, okay, you know what, we've regrouped, but not been restored. And I really love how you've been able to just separate those two. I might use that. I don't know. But no, that is amazing, because so many times that's exactly how it is. And for you to have been able to see that and to be able to say, you know what, okay, something's not going right here on the inside. I've got all this stuff going on and everything is great out here, but on the inside, things are a little bit off. And to even know that that is what you need, that's amazing. I mean, that's an amazing story. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited that, you've been able to do all these things, but then also begin to do the things that you love, and, to really be successful in what you love. I truly believe that when we live out of our hearts, that's when we have success, spirit, soul, body, everything.
Yes.
So that's awesome. So tell me this, why do you think that restoration is important for women?
Well, I don't think restoration is important for women. I think it's vital. It's beyond important. It's vital for women, because we are the ones that raise children. And we can pass on that misconception that you can function without restoration to our children.
Yeah.
It was during writing my chapter in Shift Happens, which was a book released the end of last year that I did with Nikki Woods. And as I wrote my chapter, I realized during the years that I was regrouped and not restored, how that directly affected my relationship with my own daughter.
Yes.
And affected the decisions that she made in her own life. And we don't realize, when we don't go back and deal with those painful parts of our lives and make peace to be able to go forward, we not only limit where we are personally and successfully, we also pass that down to our children.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, I definitely agree. And sometimes I don't think that we know that it's that serious. And so we've got to really hone in on what's going on in the generations to come after us. Now, what ways do you believe that women need to be restored? And, I know that a lot of times we think that restoration is one way or another, and we see it as one-dimensional. But what ways do you believe that women need to be restored?
Well, it's funny. In corporate America, I work with, lots of women, and I can so identify with the woman that feels she has it so together but is broken because of lack of restoration. And as women, I don't think we understand the impact it has on our relationships.
Yeah.
When we are not restored, we are not walking in the person we are supposed to be. Restoration means, going back to the beginning.
Yes.
Right? So when you don't do that, you are not walking in your authenticity. You are not presenting your true self and who you truly are.
Yes.
And therefore, you're not able to thrive.
Yes.
So when you have relationships with others, I always say my relationship with my husband, marriage is really interesting. It's like having a mirror up to yourself 24 hours a day, showing you all your flaws.
Yeah.
Right?
It is.
When you're single, you can ignore those things about yourself that you don't like.
Right.
when you get married, that is not
That's
the
right.
case,
That's
right?
right.
So when you're in a position that you have not been restored, your partner is dealing with all of that.
Yes.
And if you haven't acknowledged it, you are going to push back and push back and push back against it and not understand why your relationship won't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be honest, prior to my moment riding on Route 58, that's what I call my restoration moment. I struggled with my relationships. I really struggled. And ironically, I know my husband, I knew him 2 years prior to that. And we kind of didn't click. And when we reconnected after that time, it was like we were meant to be together. So restoration is key. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I that's funny. I definitely love how you were saying about looking in a mirror back at yourself once you get married. I've been married for just a couple of years now, and sometimes I just want to tell my husband, "Shut up," and don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't. But it is true. You have to begin to correct those things, and you have to begin to fix
Yes,
those things. And the only way to do it is to start over at the beginning and to see where those things got out of line, and then allow that process of restoration to heal those areas and to bring you back to
exactly.
where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So when women,
They shift, they regroup,
yeah,
but they don't get restored. And you have to push yourself through that process, regardless of how painful it may
yeah,
be.
that's true. That's true. Absolutely right. So once women are being restored, how do you believe that that impact will impact the rest of society, the men? I know we talked a little bit about the children, but
Hmm.
how do you believe it will impact men and the rest of society?
You know, I just feel, when mama has it together, everybody else has it together, right? And it's so true. I was speaking with someone today from my online community that we don't understand the impact that just one person can have.
Yes.
I think that had I not had that moment with myself and made the
Mm-hmm.
changes I made, the 200 plus women in my community, where would they be?
Yeah.
Right? And the women that they are going to touch and bless and so on and so on. The
Absolutely.
things that we live and we experience, they're bigger than us.
Yes.
And sometimes we get so consumed by our own pain and our own hurt and that moment that we don't understand that we are all connected.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So specifically, tell me a little bit more about the men aspect. I
Yep.
really, I believe that men are impacted by women in a way that nobody else is. So in what ways do you believe that once we're restored, what ways do you believe that's really going to affect our men?
I think once we're restored, we're able to support them in a way that I think it's difficult to do when you're guarded as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I said this to someone when I got married. I've taken care of myself for 40 years. I have no more points to prove, right? I know I can take care of myself. I'm very comfortable with who I am and where I am. I don't have a problem with being married and not making all the decisions.
Yes.
I'm really comfortable with that. I'm like, I've proven I can wear the pants, and I'm really cute in them, but I look much better in a skirt. So I don't have a problem understanding, because I do believe there's differences between men and women,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I love my femininity and I embrace it 100%.
Yeah.
And I believe once we are restored, we can let the guards down
Mm-hmm.
and allow them to truly love us for who we
Yes.
are, but then that also allows them to take the role that they should be in
Yes. Yes.
without all the pushback.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing, my relationship with my husband. I wouldn't have been able to have this 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I really wouldn't have. And as a result, we're able to actually have a business together. and he can support me in what I'm doing, knowing that I still respect him and what
Yeah,
he has going on as well. But it has to first start here,
that's right.
and then it affects the rest of the household, and
That's
especially the men in your life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's something, it's a bigger step when you can actually do that kind of business stuff together. Because a lot of times, you see so many couples, they try to do things together and it takes all of their energy just to work, just to live together, let
Mhm.
alone go and do business together. So that is something that is definitely, I mean, it's impactful when when a couple can say, okay, you know what, we know where we belong and we know what we each do best. And now we can bring those things together because both of us are walking in the way that we're supposed to, and we can bring those things together. And
You know, I think once you go through the process of restoration, you realize that everything is a journey.
yeah.
And even when you have those moments, because honey, let me tell you, we have those moments where it's like, Lord, yes, help us, God.
Yeah.
Okay. All you can do is pray. Yes, we have those moments. Hallelujah. Yes, we have them. But you understand that it is only for a moment and that it
Mhm.
passes and that is also part of the process.
Yes.
Too often when you're still broken and you're so guarded, you take every single argument as the end,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Instead of recognizing that that's just a bump and you will get past the bump.
Exactly.
That's part of the learning each other process.
Yeah.
So, I can give myself to him and not be
Mhm.
fearful and not be guarded and enjoy being in love. And even when the ups and the downs, know that he's in my corner and I'm in his corner. But
Yes.
it took me first
Yep.
being comfortable with myself and being restored
Yes.
to be able to do
That is awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, ditto. Ditto. That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Now, I've got just one question left for you. This has been so great and so wonderful. And I just am my soul and my spirit is so resonating with you, and it's so wonderful. I love when I can meet like minds, and
that.
I really feel like, yes, there's just a great yes. So I am thoroughly enjoying this, and I am looking forward to just staying connected in the future. But I
Oh,
have one more
definitely.
question for you. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Tell me who you are after your own restoration. Tell me who you have become. Who are you as a woman?
You know, as you asked me this question, the word that came to me is happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that eluded me for a very long time.
Yeah.
When you're not comfortable with who you are and you're not, most importantly, being comfortable showing the world
Yes.
who you are, it's difficult to be happy
That's,
because you're not walking in your own space.
yes.
And I'm truly comfortable in my own skin,
Yeah.
and that's allowed me to be happy and enjoy life,
Yeah.
but every single thing it has to offer. And it took me a long time to get here. But
Yeah.
now that I'm here, honey, I just want to have a party with everybody happy.
Oh, that's awesome. I think people sometimes take for granted the word just being happy. And, when I moved to Indianapolis, I learned that I had not been being my authentic self. I had not just been happy with who I was. And it was not until I moved here that I allowed my own process of restoration to
Yes.
occur. And when I did, it's the same result. I was happy. And everybody would say, well, that's good, but you know, it was like, isn't there something else? But you know what? The value of just being happy is like second to nothing.
Because so many people aren't.
Yes, they're
They have
miserable.
all the stuff, they're doing all the things, but at the heart of it, they're not happy.
Yeah, yeah, they're miserable. They're living miserable lives. They're in miserable relationships and not even realizing, they're thinking it's coming from this or their circumstances or whatever's going on, and not even realizing that no, this starts from the inside out.
Right.
That starts with restoration. So
Yes.
it is phenomenal to hear that and know that somebody, when people are seen and happy is a big thing.
I get it. Yes, I get it. It is a
Well,
wonderful thing. It's
yeah,
a
it is.
wonderful thing,
Yeah,
and I treasure it. I treasure it.
yes,
I really
yes.
do.
And you almost don't want to give it up for anything. You're like, nope, no, nothing's going to
You can't
disturb
have
this
my happy
here.
honey.
Right. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a great time. I am I'm excited just for everyone else who is able to hear your story and your message. This has been phenomenal talking with you and just resonating here. And I am so thankful to you for being willing to share with us and being open and honest and really letting us see who you are. You know, the whole thing about this is, you know what? Who is she? The organization is restoring her, and sometimes you have to go back and say, well, who is she? You know,
Yes,
and
yes.
that process in itself is restoration, is finding out,
Mhm.
okay, who is she? And so that we can come back and we can begin to talk about these things and we can be open about them and honest. And then more people can be led to a place where they themselves can embark on the journey and in the process of restoration. So I thank you today. I'm so glad that we had this chance to talk, and I look forward to continuing and just talking to you more in the future.
Oh, definitely. Thank you again for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure. And if I ever come to Indianapolis, I will come check you out. We got to hang
Yes,
out.
indeed, please do. And I may have to invite you just because, you know, seminars, conferences, you might have to come and talk to us. So,
Sounds like a plan. I'll definitely be there.
all right. Well, wonderful. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much once again. And I will talk to you next time.
All righty. Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.